Houston. Welcome to the Jamaica Chamber of Commerce GK Capital release of the fourth quarter business and consumer confidence indices. My name is Andre Gooden. I'm the chairman of the Jamaica Conference Board and the moderator for this morning's proceedings. Welcome again on behalf of the Chamber. Welcome to the persons joining us online. We're always happy to have you. And of course, the audience in-house. So last quarter, our main presenter today pointed out that in the third quarter, the return on capital expected by businesses moved upward slightly. But the index in terms of the climate being ready for investment was down. On the consumer side, consumers thought that in consumer conditions, the investment economic conditions fell by about 2.8%. But they expected that the improvement in business conditions would not change at all, that it would remain stable. So let's see what happens this quarter. Special recognition to our sponsor, GK Capital Management Limited, and of course to our main presenter, Don Anderson, Managing Director, Executive Chairman, Market Research Services Limited, and from GK Investments, Ronaldo Thompson, Vice President, Investment Management and Research. Also want to welcome our panelists, Mr. Jerry White, Vice President, Investment Banking, GK Capital, Mr. Cecil Foster, Managing Director, Fosrich Company Limited, and Mrs. Michelle Chinlen, Deputy Chief Executive Officer at Wigton Energy Limited. Again, welcome. Questions and comments will be facilitated as time permits via the chat room at the end of the presentations. And I encourage questions, although I don't know how many we'll be able to take, but we have a hot button topic today, which really focuses on energy and its effect on business. Very hot button topic, as I said. We're looking forward to a robust discussion from a very esteemed panel. So without further ado, I want to invite on behalf of the sponsor, GK Capital Management Limited, Mr. Ronaldo Thompson, Vice President, Investment Management and Research, who will come and give the sponsor's remarks.
Hello, morning. All right. So I'm here to give the sponsor's remarks. Good morning again, distinguished guests, members of the Jamaica Chamber of Commerce, registrants online, members of the media, and of course the GK family, including the GK Capital team members. It's truly an honor for GK Capital to stand before you today as proud sponsors of the JCC GK Capital Business and Consumer Confidence Index fourth quarter release. This release marks the end of a year, one of 3-year partnership with the JCC. And while we are certainly not counting down, this year of partnership has been a testament to our shared commitment to fostering insight-driven growth and sustainable development in Jamaica's economy. As a team at GK Capital, we have found that these quarterly releases provide an essential lens into the sentiments of consumers and businesses, offering invaluable data and help shape the strategies and policies for a more resilient Jamaica. GK Capital is deeply proud to support such an impactful initiative which aligns seamlessly with our mission of empowering business, driving innovation, and enabling progress for our people. Today's topic, empowering Jamaica, navigating energy use and costs, is particularly exciting and timely for us. As we all know, energy remains one of the most critical factors influencing economic productivity, competitiveness, and the quality of life for Jamaicans. Rising energy costs, coupled with the global transition towards renewable and sustainable sources, presents both challenges and opportunities for our nation. At GK Capital, we recognize that addressing these challenges requires innovation, collaboration, and a shared commitment to sustainable solution. That is why we are eager to engage in today's presentation and the follow-up discussion and learn from the insights of our experts and business leaders in the room. From today's presentation, we are sure that a path towards reducing energy costs, improving efficiency, and leveraging renewable resources to drive Jamaica's economic transformation will be made clear for individual and corporate businesses alike. As we move forward, GK Capital remains committed to providing the financial support, the tools, and the solution that empowers businesses and consumers to navigate these pressing issues effectively. This is not just about creating a more sustainable future. It's about building a Jamaica that thrives economically, socially, and environmentally. Thank you for the opportunity to contribute to this important dialogue. We look forward to the discussions ahead and continuing our partnership with JCC in driving growth, confidence, and empowerment for Jamaica. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ronaldo. And certainly thank you again to GK Capital for standing beside us as we go on this journey to empower our consumer and to drive productivity in our country. So we will now call on our main presenter, none other than Mr. Don Anderson, Executive Chairman, Market Research Services Limited, to provide us with the fourth quarter results of the Business and Consumer Confidence Indices. Please welcome Don.
Thank you very much, Andre. Morning to everybody, morning to your participants online. It is always a pleasure for me to be able to present on behalf of Market Research Services Limited the results of the Business and Consumer Indices. This is the 24th year in which we have been working on this study. Some of you may know that we started off with presentations made by Professor Richard Curtin from the University of Michigan. But we've always been involved in the data collection, and maybe about 10, 12 years ago, we got involved in the presentation of these indices. So this represents the report for the fourth quarter of 2024. And as usual, it is customary for us to indicate the background for the generation of the data. So fieldwork was done between September and December, and it involved interviewing approximately 623 households across the country, as well as 116 businesses of various types, various industry types. And we generated the data from all the interviews that were done, and the results are what I'm about to present. So, Andre, you indicated very quickly and very easily what the third quarter of 2024 looked like. This is now the fourth quarter of 2024 being presented now. So, over the last year, we've been presenting data which has been, in a way, pretty static and constant and basically without much change. And as usual in the presentation, we said, boy, we wait anxiously to hear what the 2024 fourth quarter data would look like. I think what we have seen, and let's see if what we have seen is that business confidence surged. And it's against the run of play, as they would say in cricket parlance, against the run of play or against the run of play in football, whatever. But consumer confidence inched up. And we need to probably take a look at that, because what that says first off is that businesses are pretty buoyant, were pretty buoyant in the last quarter. Consumers, by virtue of them reacting to situations almost on a day-by-day basis, they weren't really all that more optimistic about their own situation, but there was a positive, and we need to also reflect on that. So we're going to be starting first off with the data for the fourth quarter of 2024, and what it indicates is that consumer confidence moved up by 3.9 percentage points, just under 4 percentage points, from a slight variation, slight fall off of about 2 percentage points the previous quarter. So it's very interesting to note that, and this chart, of course, talks to you in terms of the historical pattern from 2001 until current. And there are serious peaks that we have seen. Those are election years. And we're in the election year again in 2025. Those peaks that you're looking at are election promises made and election promises not kept. So you have a serious acceleration of confidence leading up to the election, and 6 months afterwards, we've seen the pattern kind of leveling off in the last couple of years, and we have ascribed that to historical data, and we have looked at the situation carefully, and it's a certain degree of maturity of the marketplace. So 3.9% increase in consumer confidence in the last quarter against a slight fall off in the third quarter of 2.2 percentage points. So there's an uptick in terms of how consumers feel about the economy. So we're drilling down now the factors that, in a way, drove that situation. So we look at how consumers view current business conditions in the country, and we can see that between the third quarter of 2024 and the fourth quarter of 2024, there was a 2.5 percentage point improvement in how consumers felt about the business sector in Jamaica. We compare that always, and the two variables that we want to look at generally, it is how the fourth quarter stacked up against the third quarter and how the fourth quarter stacked up against the corresponding period the previous year. And what it says is that consumers are feeling a little bit better about the situation now than they were in third quarter of 2024. What impact does this have on jobs? We make the point that consumers have never really felt that jobs were plentiful. But in the third quarter of 2024, that number was 8.8% who felt that jobs were plentiful. That moved up to 11.5%. So there has been almost a 3 percentage movement upwards in terms of how consumers perceive the availability of jobs in the country. And when you look at that, that is also up from the fourth quarter of 2023. So things are looking much better as far as the consumers are concerned. How do they expect this thing to pan out? Currently, they believe that things are looking better. Again, the pattern is very much the same, because 33% expect the business conditions to continue to improve from 28.7% in the third quarter of 2024. And this is also, if you note, this is not consistent with the fourth quarter, because in the fourth quarter of 2023, 35% of the consumers we interviewed, 623 persons that we interviewed across the island, said that things would be better. They expect things to be better. That fell in the fourth quarter of 2024. But a minimal change you may want to add. What about expectations with regard to jobs? 33.6% said that we believe that the job situation will get better. We expect that the things will get better. We will be able to find jobs. That is up from 27.3% in the third quarter of 2024. And again, up by about 3 percentage points, almost 4 percentage points on year-to-date fourth quarter of 2023. So positive indicators so far. What about household income? What is interesting is that when you ask them about household income, 51.3% said, well, we expect it to increase. but this is down from the third quarter, where 52.2%. So, you know, they're in a way at cross purposes. But this is how consumers think. Consumers are saying, well, we believe that things are going to get better, but yet they don't think their household income is going to increase to the extent that people felt so in the third quarter of 2024. But you want to compare it to the fourth quarter of 2023, and this is up by almost 2 percentage points that consumers are expecting that their household income will increase. So what impact does this have on their plans to purchase? Consumers are saying, we're a little bit conservative. We're not going to jump because we believe that things are going to get better. We need to see the reality first of all. We need to see the money jingling in our pockets before we actually get involved in purchasing either a home or vehicle or vacation. So when we look at home purchases, that's down by 1.6 percentage points over the last quarter, and also 2 percentage points over the same period last year. That, of course, is a higher target. Purchasing a home generally is far more costly than purchasing a vehicle or purchasing a vacation. All right? So we need to take that into consideration. When we look at the purchase of vehicles, 26.3% up from third quarter in 2024, which was 25.9%, but almost the same thing as it was fourth quarter of 2024. So hardly any movement in their purchase plans. And similarly, we're talking about taking a vacation, 42.3% in the fourth quarter as against 45.3% in the third quarter of 2024 and 44%. So consumers are anticipating positive changes, minimally so in their own fortunes, but they do not, in fact, at this point, translate into purchase patterns, increases in purchases of either home, a vacation, or motor vehicle. So they're pretty conservative at this point in time and not prepared yet to jump until they can see a gradual pattern of improvement. So that's coming against the background of the third quarter in 2023, where there was a slight decline in consumer confidence. This is an uptick, but consumers are very wary about getting involved in more purchases at this point in time because they're not sure how long this situation will last. Okay? So we asked them, what is your view about the economy over the next 12 months? 31.3% say they expect business conditions to be better in the fourth quarter, 31.3%. And this is up from the same period comparing third quarter 24, which was 24%. So we asked them, what are you basing this on? What is driving this kind of sentiment? The first, these are not necessarily in order of importance. They're being optimistic. And this is something they can't put their finger on it, but they're pretty optimistic that things will improve. Entrepreneurship is on the rise. The economy is showing signs of improvement. There's growth in some sectors, and more new businesses are coming. This is the same 5 reasons that they gave for feeling better about the economy over the next couple of months leading into a year. So consumers are giving you their own thoughts as to why the economy is going to be better. And we also have a reading on why they think the economy is going to be worse. 29.1% say they believe the economy is going to be worse over the next 12 months. Note that this is down significantly from 35.1% in the third quarter. So it's consistent with consumers feeling better about the economy and how things are going to pan out over the next 12 months. What are the reasons for your saying the economy is going to become worse? High cost of living. And there's a chart further on which we will show that consumers are absorbing a significant amount of increases in items across the board. They don't believe the government is assisting enough. Lack of employment. Jobs have never been plentiful. So even though there's an increase in the number of persons who believe that jobs are going to come on board, jobs have never been plentiful, and therefore they believe that lack of employment. And this probably runs against the grain of data which has been spouted that we have the lowest unemployment rate ever. People are still saying that there's a lack of employment. The increase in crime and the lack of disposable income. So we need to note that whilst consumer confidence inched up a little bit, consumers are also saying that there are some challenges that they are facing and challenges that will make the economy worse over the next 12 months. Note, of course, that the number who feel that the economy will worsen is down, consistent with consumers feeling better about their own situation and where the economy is going, right? So how do you feel about prices compared to last year? We noticed 97% of the persons indicated that prices have increased, but the majority, 3 out of every 4 persons we interviewed, said prices have gone up significantly. And this is something that needs to be noted because disposable income is obviously being challenged. So, what are the most critical issues facing the country? Crime and violence tops the list by far. It's the same situation, same pattern over the third quarter of 2024. Crime is the #1 challenge to persons in the country. What are the most critical issues facing? Crime, 62%. No change in the third quarter. Crime is still predominantly and largely a factor which looms very heavily in the minds of consumers. Unemployment, 11%. Road improvement, 6%. We notice that is being dealt with at the moment. 5% poverty, 3% high cost of living, and so on down the line. But the critical factor is crime. So we pull that aside and we ask people, what do you feel, how do you feel about the crime monster being tackled? Do you think, and do you anticipate a change in the level of crime and violence over the next 12 months? 59% of the persons that we interviewed, 623 persons across the island in a nationally representative sample of persons projectable to the total population, 59% of those persons that we asked said they expect that the crime situation will get worse. So whilst that is frightening, it is also worthy to note that it is down 10 percentage points from the last quarter. In other words, fewer people think that the crime situation is going to get worse. But at 59%, it is still pretty alarming and a cause for considerable worry. 11% said they believe that the situation will be improved. Again, but this is, in a way, pales in comparison to the 59% who believe that crime will get worse over the next 12 months. 30% said it will get the same. It will be the same. And therefore, it looks like we do have a challenge in our hands over the next 12 months in the eyes of the consumers. What do you think should be done to address this monster of crime and violence? Totally open-ended question, and we fed on the responses that we got from consumers. More jobs for young people, 36%. So they're drawing a parallel, in a way, a relationship between the high levels of crime and violence and young people, jobs for young people. They therefore feel that 36% feel that if there were more jobs for young people, this would probably be one salve for the high levels of crime and violence. 36% program for the unemployed. 31% better policing. 30% better paying jobs for the youths. 30% clamping down on corruption. So corruption rises its head right here. More stringent penalties and fines for crimes, and so on. So we can see exactly where people's minds are in terms of dealing with this monster of crime and violence. It is and the fact of fact, this is very good that we have gotten such a wide range of responses. It means that, and for those who may question, sometimes they do, why is this adding up to more than 100? That's because it's a multiple response question, and therefore persons were allowed to give you as many things that came to their minds. So topping that list was more jobs for young people, 36%, programs for the unemployed, 36%, equally important, and a number of other factors that they believe would help to reduce this level of crime and violence in the society. So we asked, what are the sectors, some of the sectors that you believe will improve so that your confidence in this sector would grow? And the small business sector tops the list at 39%, not quite topping the list. The education sector is at 41%. So people are saying that they expect to see improvements in the education sector, followed by the small business sector at 39%. And this is a pretty positive reading because people are talking about improvements in various sectors, and they do expect that improvements will occur, will take place in these sectors that we're talking about, represented by the extreme green lines of various shades. So people anticipating that the education sector will get better over the next 12 months. The small business sector will also show significant signs of improvement. Health services, they expect to, again, show positive signs of improvement. And it is important that you take a note of all of these factors, that people are expecting changes. We will, of course, over the next 3 months, measure these and give you an indication of the extent to which those positives have been implemented. So, we ask consumers, because this is projecting kind of behavior pattern over the next 12 months or in the future, what are some of the things that you are going to be relying upon more in the future? Not surprising, 73% said apps on mobile devices. Same number that said mobile device such as a tablet or a smartphone. And that's significantly the factor that would impact consumers over the next couple of months, maybe into the year. Online banking, online shopping. We'll see a significant percentage of online shopping. And if we followed some of the reports in the media about how consumers fared over or retailers fared over the last 3 months, last month leading into Christmas, you could see that quite a few of the retailers were complaining that online shopping is actually eating into their business. All right, and people are saying that this is what they intend to do more and more over the next foreseeable future. Computer usage, desktops, etc. But top in the list, of course, is apps on mobile devices and mobile device use. All right, and there's just a little bit of downward kind of tick on those two items which are top of the line. Okay, so right at the start, Andrea mentioned the special sector that we looked at over this particular period of the last 3 months from September to December, and it has to do with energy. How aware are you of energy costs in Jamaica? A little more than half of the public believe they are aware of the current energy costs in Jamaica. This is a kind of macro situation, because maybe if you drill down to ask them what they know, we might find that they are left a little bit wanting. But 59% claim that they are aware of the current energy costs in Jamaica. They should, because most people pay at some point in time. Just under half say they do not believe they are aware of the current energy costs. So take it away that the majority of the people in the country believe that they are aware of energy costs. Okay? So have you used any energy conservation strategies at your home? 78% of those who say, and remember this is drilling down now from those who are aware of costs, we say 78% say that they use LED bulbs as a means of reducing their energy costs. 18% on and off timers for appliances. 11% solar panels. 9% solar water heater. They unplug their devices when they're not in use, and so on. So the key factor is that persons are using LED bulbs to reduce their energy costs, and it's part of their energy conservation strategies that they're using at home. So we had a relatively small percentage who were not investing in energy conservation strategies, as was reflected in the previous chart. So why is this? Well, 38% say they don't know enough about them, and therefore there's an information and educational gap to be made up. 34% said it's not their own home, so why would they want to do that? 30% say they have shorter funding to do it. So here's an opportunity, of course, to reach out to persons that are currently not invested in energy conservation strategies. 3% said they're not interested. So the top 3 reasons why people are not currently investing in energy conservation is because they don't know enough, they don't have the money to do it, and it's not their home. 3 pretty logical responses. So, what's your perception of renewable energy sources? 80% say they believe that they are essential. 17% were, yeah, come see, come sa. We're not particularly, keen on it, indifferent towards them. And 1%, 3% didn't think that renewable energy sources were that essential. But happily the market is shaping up to be a pretty positive one. 80% believe that renewable energy sources are in fact essential to the whole question of energy use. Do you believe enough is being done to provide support for energy conservation? Only 15% believe yes. So there is again a gulf of information dissemination and providing an assistance, basically, to support the energy conservation strategies. Only 15% believe that enough is being done. 59% are convinced not enough is being done, and 25%, one in every four, said, we really don't know. Okay? So we come to a very important chart, and we leave it for the last for a very special reason, because what we have indicated, we began to track remittances maybe about 12 years ago, when we were looking at purchase patterns from the consumers that we couldn't readily explain. They were buying things and investing in houses and motor cars and vacations against the run of play, so to speak. So we began to track remittances. And we're very happy we did, because what we're finding, and there's another question which we asked about, how much of this are you saving? How do you use your remittances? That dip in the last 3 years obviously is related to COVID, where remittances fell, the number of households receiving remittances fell, because obviously the sources from which remittances came, they're also being impacted heavily by COVID. What we're seeing is that it is picking up again. In 2022, it moved from a period of before in 2021 we were 29%, which was far below the top peak of 38%. 38% households in 2016 received remittances. That fell to 26% in 2022 because of the impact of COVID. It's picking up, 27%, picking up, 28% in 2024. The real importance of this is that very few persons who receive remittances are able to save from that. What they're doing is actually using it to shore up their daily household expenditure. So when remittances fall, there's an impact on social life in Jamaica. Because the majority of persons who receive remittances are from the low economic sector. And therefore, when remittances are down, persons have a greater difficulty in meeting their daily household expenditure. That is picking up again, all right? But it's picking up at a time when prices are going up significantly. And therefore, there's that counter to the ability of persons to meet their daily household expenditure. So the consumers are a little bit more buoyant. 3.9%, 4% roughly, believe that the economy is getting better. They're a little bit more confident about the situation going forward. But again, they're facing challenges. That 4% is against the background of a fair degree of negative connotation, negative kind of environment which consumers found themselves in right during COVID and immediately afterwards. Okay? We want to now tackle business confidence. And here's where we were surprised, we will say that, we were surprised at the significant uptick in business confidence over this period compared to the third quarter of 2024. Business confidence surged to 149.3, which is almost the peak since we started to monitor this particular index. Notice the peak was just pre-COVID, 2019. 151.3 was the index then. It's moved to 149.3. It's a significant jump over the last quarter. A significant jump over the last quarter. So we're talking about a 12.9% positive movement in terms of how businesses feel about the economy. Now, we have to bear in mind that we're dealing with the fourth quarter, Christmas. And what we have found is that the fourth quarter data tends to be a little bit more, in a way, buoyant, if you wish, because people are planning for anticipating Christmas. It was reflected also in the consumer situation. Consumers are expecting, Christmas to look good, etc. Businesses are upbeat about the economy in the fourth quarter of 2024, and as we always say, we're excited. We're moving into the first quarter of 2025. Fieldwork has started, and we're anxious to see what the first quarter of 2025 will look against the background of this significant uptick in business confidence, largely due, we believe, to solid factors, which we will talk about in a few charts down the road. But businesses are buoyant. the index is almost at its all-time high, which we recorded in 2019 before COVID. That was 151.3. We moved from 100 and, in the 130s up to 149 in the fourth quarter of 2024. A significant improvement, 12.9% to be exact, over the previous period of 2024. So what are the factors? Before we look at the factors, we note that despite this strong positive movement in the fourth quarter, that over the year 2024, the index was 138.6, which is lower than it was in 2023, largely due to the fact of that fourth quarter surge of 12.9 percentage points. But it's still not up yet to where 2023 was. But it's kind of leveling off 137 in 2022, which is a big jump from 124, those COVID years, 120.5, jumped to 137 in 2022, 140 in 2023, slightly down to 139 in 2024. Okay? All the 4 quarters combined. So that's a trend in business confidence. It's coming back up to the pre-COVID situation of 143.6. So we wait anxiously to see what the first quarter data will look like and whether that trend will continue. So what are the factors that account for this positive movement of 12.9% in business confidence? Almost every one of the indices that we plug into to come to that overall business confidence index moved positively forward, as one would expect with that kind of jump. So we see that in the fourth quarter, current profit was better than expected. 25% of the firms interviewed said their current profit was better than expected. And that was an improvement of 22.9% in the third quarter. All right, but slightly down from the corresponding period in 2023. When we look at investment and expansion plans, 68.5% of the businesses believe that's a good time to invest. And that's a huge jump from the previous quarter of 53.4%, and of course the fourth quarter of 2023 at 53.7%. So we're now getting back to a kind of bullish environment in the eyes of the businesses. 69% believe it's a good time to invest, buoyed of course by what is happening over the last 3 months and what they see happening around them. Significant improvement in the investment climate as far as businesses are concerned. Good time to invest. What about the firm's finances? Improvement all around. 78.4% said their finances have improved or are expected to be improved over the next 12 months. 72% in the third quarter, so again a big jump of 6 percentage points, and a whopping 66 to 78, 12 percentage points over the fourth quarter of 2023. So all positives. What about profitability? Same pattern. 75.7% said their profits will improve, as against 68% in the third quarter of 2024 and 70.5% in the fourth quarter of 2023. So all positive indicators. Businesses are very, very optimistic at this point in time, or they were during that September to December period when fieldwork was conducted. Again, we make the point that it's leading into a Christmas where people are planning for good times and a lot of consumer uptake on the goods that they produce. What are the feelings about the economy? 49.5%, half of the businesses we interviewed, said they expect the economy to get better in the next 12 months. But note that 34% thought it would remain the same, and 16.2% said it would worsen. What's important to note is that the number of businesses that say the conditions will improve, 49.5%, significantly improved over the period previously. And 16.2% said the conditions would worsen. And that's much lower than the previous period, third quarter of 2024, where 27.1% said they expect business conditions to be worse over the next 12 months. So all in all the indicators are that businesses are pretty confident at this point in time about things improving over the next 12 months, and they're very, very strong and very bullish in terms of what is likely to take place. Okay? So, why are businesses feeling so confident about the situation, the economy getting better in the next 12 months? And we're talking about 49.5% compared to 35.6% the period over. So there's a huge drop, huge increase in the number of businesses who are confident. Again, businesses say we're just optimistic. And we probably would have expected more concrete, more practical kinds of answers for this question. But people are saying, well, we're just optimistic. So they can't put their finger on it, but the more optimistic the things are going to. They said the economy is recovering. Government policies are dictating and driving my sentiment. Some sectors will improve the economy, and more spending power will be in the hands of the consumers. So businesses are, again, articulating some strong positives going into 2025. Why do you say business conditions will worsen? Note that, again, the number of businesses that say business conditions will worsen is lower than it was in the third quarter of 2024, 16.2% compared to 27.1%. So why is it that you think that business conditions will get worse? Well, some say the economy will not improve that quickly. So they still expect a tailwind, a kind of tail lag from the COVID situation. It's going to take long for businesses to really, find their footing again. High prices for goods and services. So businesses are complaining that it is difficult for them to actually, conduct their business because they're also being impacted by high prices of goods and services. Very much like the consumers are saying, we're facing significantly increased prices, increasing crime, unstable foreign exchange, and high unemployment. So even the businesses are speaking to unemployment as a factor in their business environment and what the economy will look like over the next 12 months for sure. So this is a chart that we again began to plot maybe about 6 years ago when we talked in terms of businesses intending to invest. Well, where are they going to invest? Or which businesses are likely to invest? And this is what this chart is all about. We can see from 2022 the sector, the industrial sector that planned to invest. And when we look at 2023 and the year-to-date 2024, we can see that the other services, which is the smaller businesses, personal care businesses, barber shops, etc., 79.4%, top in the list. But it varies year by year. This is a year-by-year compendium, all right? But we can see that significantly, almost all the sectors indicate that they intend to invest more money in their businesses, more capital expenditure, more capital outlay to make their businesses better. And this is something that we note, and you just kind of observe which sectors are, in fact, the sectors that are more prone to be investing. So, what are the factors that are negatively impacting your decision to undertake business expansion? High interest rates top the list, 21.3%. And notice that that is a 13 percentage point increase. So over the last 3 months, businesses are saying we are faced with some high interest rates that are challenging us. 21% indicated so. 20% said high input costs. 17% shortage of qualified skilled labor. It's a cry that we've been hearing more and more vocally so over the last year. Lack of funding, access to finance, 16%. Cost of foreign exchange, 11%. Crime, 10%. All of these are volunteered answers, all right? And it's important to note that this is top of mind, this is what comes to mind, and these are the things that are impacting the business's ability to undertake business expansion. We know the top 6, but we need to take note of all of them, all the way down to 3% that say some sectors are slowing down, but obviously the ones with the higher percentages are the ones that are more meaningful. So, what is the most critical issue, or what are the most critical issues facing the country at this time? Crime and violence at 36%. Perhaps comfortably and understandably comfortably, we can see that this is 16% down on what they felt previously. So that maybe businesses are a little bit more comfortable, I won't say more comfortable or less uncomfortable about the crime factor. 36% down from 52% in the previous reading. A high cost of goods and services, bad roads, businesses, 6% corruption and favoritism, migration of skilled people, stabilizing the dollar, access to capital. So these are a range of factors that people are saying are negatively impacting the business environment. Crime and violence tops the list. So again, very much in line with the importance they gave to crime and violence. We plugged that and we said, okay, well, what do you feel about crime and violence over the next 12 months? Do you feel that this will get worse? Will it get better or what? 48% of those who cite crime as the principal factor impacting the country negatively believe it will get worse. Not quite the same degree as consumers, but almost half the businesses believe that even though we're less concerned about crime at this point in time, only less because it's 56 against, or 52 against 36, they also believe that the situation will get worse. It's 48%. So it's not a good sign. 15% will get better, which is down from 18% previously. And 38% believe that the crime situation will get no worse, no better over the next 12 months. So it's something to take on board because crime is one of the big factors impacting how businesses actually feel about the economy at this point in time. So again, we asked them, what do you think should be done to address this crime and violence monster? 38% said better policing, and that's up 5 percentage points over the previous quarter. Clamp down on corruption, 24%. 17% said more jobs for young people, more investment in education, and more stringent penalties and fines for crimes. Very much the same kinds of responses that consumers gave, all right? And therefore, here is something that we should obviously share with the persons responsible for dealing with crime and violence. Suggestions are being put forward, some worth more than others, but clearly something that you should share for the benefit of those who are involved or in charge of the whole process of managing crime and violence. Again, we asked the question about which sectors they believe will improve over the next 12 months. And top in the list, we see the small business sector, very much like what the consumers said. So there's a fair amount of parallel between in some charts, in some areas of information being presented between what the consumers are saying and what the businesses are saying. Power supply, 28% of the businesses say they expect that to improve, and that's up 12 percentage points from the last quarter. Education sector, again, the consumers made mention of that. The roadways, everybody's concerned, public transport, the police, and the water supply system. So these are the areas that people expect improvement to be, and we can see the top box to the right, headed by the small business sector, which is, again, one of the areas that consumers felt would improve over the next couple of months. So what are the areas of interest as far as technology is concerned? Social media advertising, 40%. New customized software, 32%. New hardware, 31%. Virtual security systems, 22%. And electronic payment solutions for customers, 21%. Top the list of things that businesses say are areas for improved business operations that they intend to become more involved in. All right? And 32% say they're already heavily invested in technology and therefore don't plan to do much over the next 12 months. But the top 6 or 7 areas are the ones that they highlight as being the primary areas of improved business operations as far as technology is concerned in the marketplace. All right? We come to the energy issue again from the business side, and as expected, more businesses, 58% say they are aware of current energy costs in Jamaica. What's interesting is that 42% say they're not. It's probably more interesting than the 58% who say they are, all right? But that's what we found. So what are the strategies, energy conservation strategies that you invest in? And 83% said LED bulbs. Again, that was the top of the line for consumers. Solar panels, 36%. On and off timers for appliances, 22%. solar water heaters, solar light bulbs. Very much the same pattern for the consumers, and therefore these are, we should take on board as the key energy conservation strategies that are on the top of the minds of businesses. Okay? Again, we ask the same question. You're not currently invested now in energy conservation strategies. Why? 13% of the businesses say, we don't know enough about it. 13% said, there's a restriction on funding. 13% said, we're just a tenant in the building. Why would we want to do that? And 13% are not convinced about the viability of solar. And again, for that reason, they say they need to do their research. And some persons have just been sitting down and saying, you know, we haven't gotten around to it yet. 38% didn't tell us why. But again, the majority are aware of energy conservation strategies and are in fact implementing quite a bit. But 42% said, not really. We look at that 12% have not invested in any energy conservation strategies. 12% have not invested in any energy conservation strategies. And we asked them, well, why? Don't know enough, funds, financing short, funds not owning the building, just tenants in the building, and so on. So these again highlight what are the key reasons why people are not investing in energy conservation strategies. That takes me to the end of the presentation, and I, of course, hand over now to Andre, who will lead the rest of the proceedings. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Don. A whole lot to unpack there, a whole lot to pardon the pun, consume. One of the other things we did, which we always do in the last couple of years, is ask the public, small businesses and consumers, what they feel about what's happening around them. So we have a little vox pop, which I'll now ask our team to just play to share the view of the quote-unquote man in the street on particularly business confidence, but more specifically on energy and the cost of energy. Could you play that now, please?
Well, we use less appliances, you know what I mean? We use less appliances so that, you know, we don't burn too much energy. And
Not getting your volume there. Could we give you a couple minutes? And we'll press on. All right. Don, business. I'm going to ask Don if you could just join me at the podium here. I'll be there shortly. And my other panelists as well. Mrs. Michelle Chinlen, Deputy CEO, Wigton Energy. Just join you at the head table on the platform. Mr. Cecil Foster, Managing Director, Fosterich Company Limited. And Mr. Jerry White, Vice President, Investment Banking, GK Capital Management Limited. Please welcome them. All right. Thank you very much, Don, again, for that presentation. We've been doing this for quite some time, as you mentioned. Business confidence surging by as almost 13% one quarter. And the main reason indicated there is just general optimism from your participants in the survey. I don't buy that. There must be something. You indicated the last time business confidence surged like this was around 2018 when the stock market was going through the roof. Several other things were happening macroeconomically at that time as well. So outside of what the consumers mentioned, and the businesses, have mentioned as the reason why there's this surge in confidence over a 4-month period, basically. What else could you think based on the 24 years of data that we have, could really have caused this. I mean, we're happy for it, but we just, if I'm a small business person looking to make a business decision, you'd have to explain to me why that happened. Because I can't make a decision just because 1,600 businesses and consumers say that things are 13% better now than they were 4 months ago.
You know, we're trying to kind of disaggregate the data quite a bit. One of the factors, obviously, is that coming after maybe 3 quarters of leveling and, you know, stable, if you wish, stable at a lower level. A lot of businesses are looking forward to the December quarter. And we're very, very optimistic about things improving. There was a lot of talk about things happening. And I think when you look at the data, it is clear that businesses were optimistic without a concrete basis for being so optimistic. They really expected that things would be much better in the last quarter of 2024. And I think the investment climate and the talk from a government perspective was that this was a turning point in terms of how businesses would see the economy. And I think this is manifesting itself in the data that we actually picked up. Businesses were simply a lot more buoyant and more optimistic about things happening in the fourth quarter, going towards Christmas. There's a normal kind of uptick, small generally, towards the December period. And we found that that was probably driving the situation quite a bit in the fourth quarter of 2024.
Wow. Well, the business people are here. We have an esteemed panel of business people here who I am hoping can shed further light on that situation. Starting with you, Jerry. From a business perspective, well, you can speak from, all of you can speak from both perspectives, but what has transpired? Consumer confidence is up 4%, business confidence is up almost 12, 13%. From the GK Capital perspective, I know that generally businesses are optimistic. Generally done, businesses are more conservative in their posture than consumers. In this case, it's a total reverse. Jerry, what are you seeing in interacting with your clients? And from an institutional perspective at GK, what would be leading to this very high confidence level?
Well, thank you. Excellent question. From what we're seeing, when you look across the market, many companies have had record years in terms of profits. So companies have had very strong performance, and the outlook for the following year, remains good. So when you look at, sector by sector, whether it is tourism, construction, distribution, the energy sector, the financial services sector, all of them are growing very, very rapidly. And it's not that there aren't problems and challenges that are there, but I think with a generally stable environment in terms of the economy, there are concerns about interest rates that was noted as a concern. With regional expansion opportunities, whether it's Guyana growing at 48% in the last calendar year, Jamaican businesses, I know, for example, my esteemed colleague here is looking, into those markets as well. So I think businesses had a good year, and they see opportunity ahead, in 2025 and beyond. And I think that is fueling the optimism.
So you're responding to your customers in that way too?
Absolutely,
okay.
Absolutely. So, for us, it's, we say we like to be the wind beneath the wings of our customers. Yeah. So since they are optimistic and they want to grow, we're actively talking to them, to provide funding, other resources for that growth.
Right, thank you. Wigton Energy, a company that has recently transformed itself, rebranded itself, and certainly, obviously, very confident in what's happening around us. The survey results that we saw, is that in line with what you see from your perspective as a business and certainly as a provider of services to Jamaica?
Yes, we are confident. Energy is the lifeblood of the economy. People need it in their homes, you need it in the business, nationally. I mean, we use a lot of our GDP to import fossil fuels, so the country has this push towards 50% renewables. So we are playing our part and supporting the business growth in the sector by, as you mentioned, we just won a almost 50 megawatt project in solar, so we're not just in wind. We're helping to support that drive to 50% renewables with these large solar projects. That's at utility scale. When we can avoid the fossil fuels, we can avoid the emissions, so it has health benefits, efficiency benefits without the fuel cost. In your business, if you're more efficient with energy, you're more efficient as an organization, so it can help to drive your business. And we're also going to help you to meet those goals at a business level by partnering with a partner to do solar at the distributive commercial scale as well.
Wow. All right, thank you very much. Cecil, same question. The results we just saw, are you seeing that on the ground in your space? And are you equally as confident as a business person?
My space is a little bit different from from her space and his space, and I think I would have to say it this way, that the information coming through from Don is mainly looking at the medium term, I would think, because on the ground we don't feel that kind of an energy. I mean, we see down the road the next 6 to 12 months that there's going to be a little bit more positive run in the economy. But we are in this space, and we have to separate the two. One is the consumer, and one is the business space.
Yes, right.
In the consumer space, there's a level of buoyancy that we have never seen for energy, for renewable energy products. The demand is just blowing up for a solution that can bring the individual's energy. On the business side of things, there's a little bit more lethargy there, where people are holding back a little. They say they want to go, but they are holding back. Again, we know why, and it's because affordability. Not because the prices are too out of whack, but it's just because they don't have the cash flow to do it. So people are generally positive, but some people can't move, and the others are positive because they feel like there's a solution to drive their bottom line as individuals and so on. So overall, I think it's in the middle for us.
Right, right. Thank you for that. One of the results that did startle me a bit is the fact that many are claiming not to be sufficiently equipped with the knowledge to make decisions as to how they tackle alternate energy sources. Michelle, what do you think is happening there? And what would Wigton Energy be doing to sort of close that gap?
Sure, we know there were some barriers for people to adopt renewable energy. So from 2016, we opened a renewable energy training lab. So once we can get 10 persons, we can run a course for you. Instead of being like the UE or the longer format programs, it's just a 5-day. So you can get basically a crash course, all the basics on the technology. So we're supporting you on the information side. Also, as I mentioned, in terms of the solutions, we will come in, assess your bills, find a solution for you. It will be customized to meet your needs, looking at your demand profile throughout the entire day. So we're offering the solutions technically. And then the third thing, in terms of the financial barrier, we're also offering leases. We've done it for 2 clients so far, Jamaica Ind and Carreras. So we upfront, we do the design, and you don't start paying until basically the system is operational. So basically, it's not going to cost you anything, and you will get the savings immediately. Once you can pay your JPS bill, you'll realize savings with this. So there's not going to be any additional burden.
Okay, thank you. Before I ask Jerry the financial question, Cecil, same question, public awareness. What is Fashrish doing or can do to start out?
Amazing. We have been running a lot of events, opening up this kind of world that is called energy and the possibilities for people. And so that report is kind of surprising, right, Michelle? It's kind of surprising for me. We know that, therefore, we have a lot more work to do. One of the things that we have done in the last year and a half, we have made a decision that we are going to be training 100 solar installers across the country. We have achieved that by trained 120 across all parishes. And they have become disciples who are interfacing, they are technical people, and they are interfacing with householders, because some of those persons and businesses, they're not going to come into our space. So we have tentacles that will go into their space and try to develop a more knowledge of what this thing is all about. We do have, monthly training with our partners like, say, Huawei and Jinko and so on, and yet we still need to do more. I think when we analyze things, sometimes the consumers don't pay attention until they are really very, very much at the point of becoming hurt. And so they wait too long. So you're there in a room like this, and when people leave, the information is not leaving with them because the attention is not being paid to what is going on. Maybe they're too affluent or whatever it is. Maybe that's why.
Emil, that's aimed at you, I'm sure. Thank you, Cecil. So, Jerry, the financial question now. This is the tough one. What can financial institutions and policymakers do to make renewable energy projects really more accessible to small and medium enterprises, which I believe is the majority of the employment in Jamaica? Okay. So everybody, 50% at least of the persons watching and listening are in small and medium businesses looking for greater efficiency.
Well, I certainly, from a business standpoint, any kind of tax break that could come from installing, would incent people to make that decision and take that leap. I think with businesses, when they look at their capital expenditure, they're going to rank it, with different areas, because you only have a finite amount of capital. So, you saw, for example, crime seems to be an issue, a big concern, and continues to be so. So money is spent, in that area. I think, as Sir Cecil has said, in the short term, people are just trying to kind of survive, and then go to the long term. And I think, unfortunately, many businesses don't take a long-term approach. It's like putting out immediate fires as opposed to, investing for the future. From a capital markets and an investment banking standpoint, we are happy to support businesses that want to invest in renewable energy. As I shared with you last night, Andre, even us at GK as a whole, Grace Kennedy, we've made significant investments in renewable energy sources. In fact, by 2026, we're expecting to save $1 million US, from our investments in renewable energy. So it's something that we can provide support, of, and it's something that we believe in. It really is part of who Grace Kennedy is in terms of renewable energy and all the positive benefits that come from it.
Yeah, thank you. That's definitely very important. I didn't see it come up as large as I thought it would in terms of the barrier to entry. Right. That was sort of more understated than I thought it would be. But Michelle, based on what's happening globally, how do you see the global energy trends impacting our strategy for the next 5 to 10 years? Because I know that Wigton is building out now, so you would have done the homework.
Yes, we actually looked at the global landscape, and we found that investments in renewables were the fastest growing in the energy sector over any other form of energy. I think solar panels have been down price-wise in the last decade, 75%, batteries down 82%, buoyed also by the advancements in electric vehicles, also driving the research and development on batteries. So it's a good time to do renewables in terms of cost. Your payback a couple years ago was 9 years, now it's 3 years. So in terms of the economics, it works. So that's why we're continuing. We believe we're on the right path with renewables.
Right. We're seeing that 80% of the consumers believe that renewable energy sources are essential, but 38% don't use any conservation strategies at all. So that's kind of a dichotomy of views there. You think it, but you don't act it down.
Yeah, you know, I think the information process has to be more granular.
Yes, yes.
You know, in other words, people are aware, aware, kind of notionally aware. But until you drill down to consumers and businesses and say, here are the benefits and here is what needs to be done, I don't think you're going to get more than a slow uptake on the process. So I think the information process has to be more granular rather than, in a way, macro.
All right. Just to go back to you one more time, Don. Still started that. We can see the midday headline already. Business confidence surges in the last quarter.
Right.
I'm still trying to pin down the factors. I mean, it's election season. Could that have something to do with it? The Spark program, could that have something to do with it? And many other factors that are influencing macroeconomic conditions. The last time we were this high up, what was the fact? I know the last time we didn't have that question on there about just being optimistic. We were more targeted in terms of getting responses from consumers. So in 2018, when we had a surge like this, do you recall what the factors were that were influencing business confidence to this level? And so we could say, go back there and use the past to predict the future.
That's 6 years ago,
Eternity.
I don't know. I think there's no question that the whole environment was becoming a little bit more excitable, if you wish, in the last quarter with election talk, the Spark program, as you rightly say. And I think a lot of businesses were beginning to think that normally at election time, if I show those two peaks for good reason, because everybody gets a little bit more excited, including businesses, about the possibilities that might in fact, be realized during an election year. And I think certainly in the last quarter, we became very much more attuned to the fact that an election could even be held in February. I think the closer we get to the end of January, the more we disabuse of that notion. But I think these are factors that will drive the kind of optimism in businesses that things are going to get better. And they're pretty much bought into the whole process of changes taking place. The Spark program would have been a very important one, I believe, and a lot of businesses saw themselves being involved in one way or another in that rollout.
All right, thank you. I think we're all alluding to the fact that government intervention will be required at some point to drive this thing fully. So the elephant in the room really is, what can the government do? In that context though, public-private partnerships, Jerry, Cecil, Michelle, what are you seeing on the table in terms of public-private partnerships to bolster the diversification of our energy sources? Anything happening at GK? I mean, you spoke about GK directly in terms of what's happening internally and how you supply your own business with electricity. Right. But are there any collaborations with public sector, to sort of move this forward a little more?
Oh, absolutely. Through the Development Bank of Jamaica, recently they brought in some experts and they're looking to actually start a fund, an infrastructure fund that will be seeded with capital from the government and the private sector to invest in these larger scale projects. So from a public sector standpoint, public sector, private sector, ongoing developments are happening in that space. And I think, in 2025 and beyond, I think some of these projects will come to fruition. I'm sure some of the other panelists, will be aware of, a lot of the projects that are in the pipeline.
You're leading me right into Michelle now.
Sure. I think to get the scale, we do need these big public-private partnerships to really move the needle. You would be aware, or some people, DBJ was promoting a long time, like the Soapberry project, wastewater project, so that would be maybe public-private. There was a waste-to-energy project that they were promoting as well. Wigton itself has been working with the government on a project to basically solarize a pumping system for a national irrigation system in St. Elizabeth. It's a big 3.7 megawatt project. So more initiatives like that. I know the government has been doing projects for like AC efficiency, LED change out, solarization of government buildings, hospitals, etc., to bulk projects together to get some scale. So
Right, thank you.
more of those type of initiatives.
Thank you. Cecil, the same question for you. I mean, I know you have PVC pipes, you have all kind of things happening. Are there any partnerships with public sector that you can springboard further development on?
Yeah, I mean, the full need that is expected to come to the table quickly in this industry is the affordability. And any partnership that's going to bring that to the table is going to run faster to get solutions for the market. Let me say this. We have seen every year there's a tsunami of requests that cannot be funded. So we are asking Jerry and the others who are hearing to move a little faster. We have removed from our list between January and December almost $4 billion worth of requests. A lot of that needs financing. Now, we have been at the doors of some of the financial institutions, and finally it was such a good news to see a group of one financial institution, which is yours, came to meet with us yesterday to say they finally have linked up with DBJ to bring finance solution through companies like ours to the market. And so we are able now to scale up our financing program to the market. And the rate is very, very affordable. And therefore, that kind of partnership is going to accelerate and satisfy the market desire for renewable energy. So I'm kind of concerned that persons are saying that they don't know much about it, while we have so much on our table that we can't bite up, and so on. So I'm saying, I'm not shooting down, but he's going to stay alive after this event. But sometimes when people we don't know what they're saying exactly, but they are just pushing for more. And also, one of the other good programs that I see out there is the $1.5 million NHT household program. That is, I think, was slow in moving through the system at NHT. Now it is coming in. Going to be partnering with NHT to help them to provide their individual energy source that they need. And so on the energy, in a direction very quickly once financing is available, because affordability of the product is yeah.
Currently, the consumers over this quarter, over the last quarter, 8% better in terms of the availability of jobs. These projects, these public-private projects, which you speak of, Michelle, I put it to you first because you have a big one right on your doorstep. Do we have the human resources here to adequately fill those positions?
Well, Wipton's background was 20 years operating wind farms, so we're actually on a major program to upskill or retrain our staff in solar. Right now, they're actually running a program at the wind farm now to train in solar. But the last time we did a major utility scale project, we employed 125 people. So we see this upcoming project as another opportunity for employment.
Okay, same thing, Cecil. I mean, I know you have some projects as well, which
Yes.
you actually took your labor overseas and trained them and brought them back.
Yeah, we have done some of that, and we have partnered with HEART as we play a role with the HEART training program, and HEART is able to give us some of the technical persons, and also UTEC. We have partnered with UTEC, and when they come into our place, they're not ready, obviously. So what we have done through our corporate university training program is to train them, and we have trained in the last 6 months, maybe 60 or so technical persons and engineering persons. Because when they come into our space, they even hear the term, bird can fly on one wing. I mean, we have some persons who are non-Jamaicans, and they have worked in industries like from Philips and Siemens and so on, and they are surrounded. But when the Jamaicans come, they are just on one wing. So we have learned this, and so we have developed this training program to train people to be business oriented, not just a technical person or an engineer. And so under the corporate university program, we make sure that we have the quality coming through the ones that we have employed. So partnering with UTech and HEART, and then our training program to give us the quality that we want from our staff.
Okay, Fast Rate University.
Yeah, that's it.
That's great, that's great. As we look to the future, what should we be looking for on a basic level now, in terms of the public education, which we have to come back to. But for some people on the outside just listening in now, what are, how can renewable energy sources, such as solar, wind, etc., benefit or lower the energy costs to households? I mean, in selling your products and services, you have to go down to the basics and just tell people, based on what we saw in that survey, that too many people don't really understand. The elevator pitch now to say what is the value proposition for diversifying your energy source.
You want me to go first?
Go ahead, Michelle. Go ahead, Michelle.
Ladies first.
Yes.
Sure, the elevator pitch for renewables, when you say solar and wind, usually people in the corporate area, there's no wind, so first you have to understand that it's where the resources are. So if you're not in a windy area, it's not a good investment to do wind. If solar is more accessible to everywhere, so that's why it's more widely adopted. But still, even with that, there's an irradiance map, and some places are better than others.
Yes.
So in terms of the investment decision, so that's one thing, the resource. The next thing is like the space. I heard a lot of people say they don't own their space, so that's just a barrier. Maybe we can't overcome. But you're going to look at your space. In terms of businesses, you don't only have to think of rooftop. Now there's been advances in, say, car parks, so you consider that in terms of your area. In terms of why it would make sense, well, the financial benefit is 1, the environmental benefit 2, the health benefit 3, the national benefit. So, I mean, there are so many reasons why you should adopt solar.
All right. Cecil?
Just to add to Michelle, we have spent a number of years teaching people about LED bulbs and LED tubes, and it's so good to see that the number is about 78% that Don showed.
That is a result of a private-public partnership, though. That's JPS pushing that hard too, so it's a good result as a result of the effort that was put in to push that.
And so that is something that we can show people that, look, it has worked, and they can feel it in their own pocket, because that coupled with timers that people use, because we've always said to people, when you go to bed at night, you're not opening, your fridge is not opening, but your fridge is cycling, and every time it cycles, it is burning a little bit of hole in your pocket. And so a timer that is going to keep it off from, say, 12 o'clock until, say, 5 o'clock is going to save you a few $1,000s each month. And obviously, they have believed in that. And so we can say to them, if they can believe in us to have done what we have done with them, then they should believe in us to take to solar if they want to go that route. And that's what I would say to them,
Yeah, I think we probably need to do a part 2 on this survey done specifically around energy efficiency, energy education, for example. And I think, these 2 companies here maybe can engage you to do it, because it will help you make business decisions that are...
If I can just add, because Emily mentioned earlier about the need for more granular activity. Talking about marketing and creating a higher level of awareness of the value, And when you see data which says that some firms aren't aware of it, it says to me there's a job to be done in terms of communicating the benefits to firms that they would more readily adapt to the use of renewable energy. So I think there's a process, but an education job to be done.
Yeah. All right. Tourism, one of our major employers, if not the major employers, tourism sector. What is happening in that sector in terms of energy use? The large hotel chains are coming in. Are there any projects on the table that can incorporate, as they go for greater efficiency, we see some staffing issues lately, which again can give these companies, these hotels chains, the opportunity to go for greater efficiency. Are there opportunities, start with Jerry, for those chains, whether the locally owned ones I'd start with, obviously, to diversify their energy sources more? I don't remember being at any of the major resorts and seeing a big band of solar panels, but you know, I don't go to the ones that Cecil go to, so I don't know.
Well, I think all of the hotels in particular, you said tourism, but you know, there's hotels, there's obviously attractions, other businesses that make up, you know, the tourism sector. You know, they're all looking at it, and some have done more than others. I think the Jewel in Montego Bay, they run on LNG, and certainly most of the hotels do have some amount of solar, but I think they could probably do much more, and I'm sure my colleague panelists are probably speaking to many of them.
Yeah, I think the challenge that they have is that they're not in the business of energy production. They're not there. They are in, hospitality and so on. And so they need for persons like us to develop systems and manage it and provide them with the service is there. And I think some of them are talking in that respect. I'm giving Michelle information in that respect. So that should be, I don't know if 2 or 3 will come to the market this year, but they have a need and they want a solution, but they don't want the burden of managing a plant and so on. And so here's an opportunity.
Hotels do a lot of self-generation themselves. As you mentioned, they run their own power plants. Some of them have solar, but why you don't see it is they don't want you to see it. You know, so there's an aesthetic issue for the hotels. So there is an opportunity. We've been talking to some, yes.
Okay, because we know that sector is going for efficiency now, and to diversify their product, they really have to be more efficient. All right, so as we sort of get close to wrap up now, Cecil, the small business person, again, I'm using that as our primary audience. Where do they start in terms of hearing all this information today about the importance of efficiency in your business? Where do they start? Do they start with an energy audit? Where do we start? Before you talk to Jerry about the financing, what do you have to do internally to understand the value this can bring to your business and to understand the environment that you actually are working in?
With the knowledge that you want to go energy efficient, just call us. Whether we are in your space or not, just call us. And once you do that, you trigger a response that starts to say, look at what your consumption is like. And we can even stay where we are and look at your roof to see if that is the option that you need to go, a roof, or you, as Michelle said, a car park or whatever it is. And then we will do an audit, which does not cost you anything. And after we do an audit, then we present the result to you with a recommendation. We are now more and more getting to the point of presenting a result with a financing plan to the consumer. And so therefore, they can see that in 3.5 years, paying at this rate that they would normally pay to the present provider, they would be off the grid, or they would pay back for their system. And so if they call us, we will take them through those steps, and they now will have to make the decision if they really want to go, if they want to finance it, or they have the cash to do it, or they want us to link them with the financing company. And so don't be afraid. If you have that kind of a desire, we are able at Fosrich to take you through the process.
So you're saying at the consumer level and at the small business level, the return on investment can be as little as 3.5 years?
Yes, especially C&I, the industrial, we call it now, the industrial level. Sometimes what happens, because of the inability to have the roof space for individual homeowners, you might not be able to come off totally. So you might be taking off 50 or 60%. So your payback will be maybe 3 to 4 years, I think. In most instances, now in these days, it is just over 3 years.
That's it. That's fantastic.
And Michelle is concurring.
Yes, I would say that's the same thing. Wigton used to be more utility scale, but now we have a commercial officer who will take you basically through the same process Cecil outlined, so you can also call Wigton.
That's great. So it's
We're not leaving her out, okay?
partnership. See, Jamie, partnership's coming out again. Right.
I see Andre, a greater degree of proactivity on the part of producers. I think what's happening right now, which would impact the acceptance level, is more proactivity, more reaching out to smaller businesses and articulating how they could actually benefit from a greater engagement with renewable energy.
Yes.
I think right now, and it's part of the thing that's driving the lack of awareness. There's more proactivity, more marketing, more information dissemination, and more hand-holding, so to speak.
Thank you very much. This has been really a fantastic discussion. I don't know if our team is ready with the Vox Pop yet. Yes? All right, just before we go, I'm going to ask the team to just show us the Vox Pop questions that we put to the public on energy, use of energy, and the affordability.
Well, we use less appliances. You know what I mean? We use less appliances so that we don't burn too much GMC like that. Because we know what's the case. And the economic state right now, without personal means, kind of tough. Some can't run too much energy and then when the bill come, can't beat it. You understand? So that's how I try to control the energy system.
Alright, so in a day and age like this, as it relates to reducing my electricity bill, I have electric stove. So when that is not in use, of course we turn that off. And in the event where I don't have to use it, I will use gas stove, or I turn off the room lights when those are not in use as well.
Warn my daughter not to sleep while the TV is on, so put it on timing that it can turn off by itself.
Always going to find mankind developing themselves, mind, brains, and art, and creating new things that make the world much easier and the movements of life much easier. So, like the new renewing energy and all that, it's good for the country and it's good for the world. Love my little island so much because it's a blessed space in the earth, as small as it is. So, anything that can benefit Jamaica, I salute it. And renew energy and solar system and the technology, all of that is good for Jamaica. You know what I mean?
It would benefit me personally if I had the solar panels, but I think it's a good move because then the less carbon energy that Jamaica produces, then the less pollution there would be.
Move towards that is a great move, yes. Less you can save something in your pocket is a better move. And better for the country. And the country move forward to a faster pace now still.
Storm out and them turn off the light, and so when you have the solar, that's a good thing because I did use a solar to keep me right through till when time the storm pass.
That as long as the government involved with all these things and try to make it well convenient for each and every one of the citizens. With our energy, power, human power in this country, we can, make things much easier, but everybody have to get involved.
Most persons have a lot of children. Children tend to be hard to monitor sometimes. So even though you may say, John, turn off the lights, don't be using it, it's not necessary at this time. When you turn your back, you don't know what they are doing. Right, so I think that this transition would be better for them, and I would 100% recommend that they go ahead and they do it because one, it's safer for the children, less electricity, less hazard, and we would have been able to use that money, generate it into something else that would have been more worthwhile.
So the issue that I think that they're having with the overusage of energy, I just think that they really don't care. They just pay the money whenever they get bills because they have the money. And I think one solution that they could have is try installing more solar panels, try using wind energy per se. And I think for the country itself, like they have electric vehicles, I think they could install more charging ports for persons with electric vehicles so that they could use less gas.
The view from the streets. Nobody said anything much about affordability, which is a good thing done. They spoke about the necessity, but they didn't speak about the cost. But evidently, it's top of mind of the average consumer. The home remedies, like you suggested, the LED lights and turning off what you're not using. So clearly, the message is hitting home, but I think there still needs to be some more significant more work done to empower businesses and retail consumers to take steps to come off the grid or reduce their dependence on the grid. I want to thank everyone for being here. I neglected to welcome and thank my own team for being here, the president of the Jamaica Chamber of Commerce and all the vice presidents, and also the support team for helping us to put this together. Thank you to GK Capital, our sponsor, the Pegasus, for the very comfortable accommodations today. Thank you to all the persons online who have joined us, and of course to our panelists, Mr. Jerry White, Mr. Cecil Foster, and Michelle Chinlen, and of course, none other than Executive Chairman, Market Research Services Limited, Mr. Don Anderson. We thank you all for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you again when we do the results of the first quarter of 2025, which will be in the second to third week in April. Have a good day, everyone, and see you at the Stock Exchange Conference later.
Recording stopped.